Good day, and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Battle video. In this video, we are going to be taking a look at we're going to be taking a look at stage 3 of the Fighting Spirit event. So obviously guys, there was some new content added to the Fighting Spirit event, and I think overall it's I want to say they're interesting kind of like events, but this stage, this third stage, probably feels like the worst one overall, just for me. I personally just don't find it to be, I don't find it to be enjoyable. I think the limitations in team building are showing in this event a lot. I'm trying my best here to make teams that don't necessarily involve any of the premium LRs. But yeah, it is, generally speaking, just not too fun, I think, personally speaking. So, but it's okay. Yeah, at the end of the day, I think it's an alright event, but I do think they could have done something more interesting than this. This just feels like something that's going to just, partially irritate players, I think, at the end of the day. So the premise of this is that you're going to be fighting a round of metal coolers, and you're going to be fighting 10 rounds in total. So firstly, the effects constantly popping up is a little bit irritating, but yeah, not the end of the world. The real main issue you're going to have here is that, what I've run into is, let's say you don't have the God Duo. Let's say you don't have the Super Saiyan Goku and Super Saiyan Vegeta unit. Your only other movie hero's lead is actually the Agility Gogeta. So that kind of immediately throws you for a loop, because both the God Duo and the Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta are both exceptional units here, and this event can actually be pretty challenging. So the reason this event can get pretty tough is because basically the coolers get slightly stronger every single round. So they get quite substantially stronger, and they can actually hurt you quite a bit with their super attacks, especially if they are type disadvantage. Now obviously the main issue being is that you can take a lot of super attacks in one turn. So the premise is to essentially focus down any threat units, and then B, to try and finish them off with the AoE from the second rotation. We're going to talk about team builds and options and everything like that, but yeah, so the first real issue is leader. If you don't have the God Duo or you don't have the Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta, you're kind of left with this AGL Gogeta, who's still a very decent unit, but he gets hit very hard in this event. He can instantly lose you a run, which is obviously quite an issue. Then, in terms of the kind of overall units that you want to use, well, you want to firstly use units that have either type effective or built-in crits. The main reason being is you want to obviously take out as many units as possible. Whenever you have a unit that can be taken out by an attack, you want to immediately take out that threat. Sometimes it requires you to even focus on units that unit has type disadvantage against. So you immediately want to try and remove threats to whichever unit is in the rotation. So for example, you'll see very, very often I focus on making sure that I take out the int type cooler. The reason being is I want to remove the unit that can damage me the most on most of my rotations, and because I have a lot of tech units in the team, generally taking out that int type cooler is obviously kind of something that I want to focus on. So that's kind of your two main focal areas. Then in terms of team construction, like I said, crits are great, additional attacks are great, AoE attacks are great, although don't just flood your team with AoE. For example, the Super Saiyan Gotenks, the AGL one that does AoE attacks, he's not good enough to go deep into the event, at least at 55%. Maybe at 100%, you could take him deep into the event, but he his medium chance of stunning all enemies can't proc here, because you can't stun any of the coolers. You can't stun them, can't seal them, so immediately that is obviously a slight problem. So there's a couple of things that you obviously need to be aware of, and then I think beyond that, the only other thing I can suggest is trying to have 2 relatively tanky units, or units that can kind of circumvent the, I want to say the damage in the first slot. So the reason being is basically you obviously at the most risk on your unit in the first slot because you are unable to take out units. So for example, with the Tech God Goku in the first slot, if Tech God Goku wasn't massively tanky against movie bosses, he could take 2 or 3 super attacks and you'd be dead. But because he is massively tanky, he can soak up that damage, eliminate the AGL unit at the very least, or at least do huge damage to him, and then we can use the God Duo to take out another 2 or 3 coolers, and then all of a sudden you're like set up, you're not at as much risk of dying. Also transform the God Duo early if you are using them as a friend lead like me. Generally at around 300k defense, they're pretty much good to go for the rest of the event, and you want them to have that crit chance, that evasion chance, and all those additional super attacks. So yeah, feel free to transform them relatively early on. You don't need them to stack forever. It's not that kind of event. Damage is king here, because you want to be able to take out the more metal coolers you take out in a single rotation, the better it's going to be for the other rotation. That's just the general concept here. So yeah, that's the general plan of action. Obviously it can change depending on your units and that. I've tried to refrain from using units like Tech Gogeta, the LR Super Saiyan Duo, Gobros, Super Saiyan Goku. All of those are very good units, especially Gobros I think are very good. I've used one LR in the physical Gogeta. I think they're a great option. Because of their healing ability, I think they bring a lot to the table. If you can't use them, I think your next best bet would be to use the Super Saiyan Goku from the first part of the Worldwide Celebration. Tech Gogeta is also good because of the Scouter ability, his general defense, the heal, everything like that. Gobros is also actually a very nice pick, just because of the sheer damage. It is another tech unit though, so, and unlike Gogeta, they don't have that scale, that scalability with the damage reduction, so it can be a little bit hectic. Obviously, there's some very, very noticeable kind of units excluded. Barring those LRs, you've got LR Tapion and Minoshia. You've got the Strength Piccolo tanking unit. You've got the Krillin and Gohan youth combo unit that just came out in the banner. Paikuhan, although a very good unit, I felt that his damage kind of fell off. His evasion is somewhat helpful, but you very rarely get to use his active skill. So unlike red zone fights where you're facing one enemy and his active skill can easily proc, it's generally not too great here. And then there are some pretty nice ones. Tapion's a good pick, I think, for a tanky unit in that first slot. I'm using the free-to-play Goku Gohan exchange unit, just more to make the team a bit more accessible rather than anything else. Basically, I just felt like throwing them in. They're good units. The heal is helpful. The evasion can get caught out a little bit, but generally speaking is reliable. And then when they have the guard and the transformation, as long as you use a Whis or something, Goku tanks relatively well. Obviously, falling below 77% health does kind of remove that, but you generally don't get that here. So now that we've obviously spoken a bit about team options and team building, we'll talk about my units a little bit more in depth. So obviously we've got the God Goku, first slot unit, 77% damage reduction against movie bosses, very, very good. Creates rainbow orbs, just makes the team functionality a lot better. Shares a lot of links with the SS God Duo, who I still think are the best movie heroes option for this, even though I know the Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta have that additional kind of, advantage, etc. I just think the God Duo are just so good. Their crit chance, their evasion, everything they have built into the passive is just very, very good. So That one for me, I think, is very, very solid. Very great combination. Obviously, if you don't have the Super Saiyan God Goku, you can use something like Strength Piccolo. He'll be relatively decent in the first slot. Maybe you can use Tapion. You don't need to worry about keys so much as long as you have someone to tank for them in that first slot. It's not that they're bad defensively. You could use them with their defense up at the 300k mark, but it just eliminates a lot of the possibility for them to get, take it out. Then, obviously, as I mentioned now, the Super Saiyan God Duo, just a very good unit. That guarding in the first turn, the stacking and defense, the crit chance and the evasion chance that occurs when they get their transformation, the multiple super attacks. They're just very, very good. Plus, they've got the interrupt on the 24 key. Just all very, very, very good mechanics, and just excellent unit, basically. Just a super duper reliable unit. So yeah. Then, obviously, floating, I have the physical Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta Angel. Very, very good unit after their easy aim. More just a damage dealer here and a floating heal if necessary. Nothing really too crazy beyond that. Basically just there to provide heal if we need, and they do very good damage. They're also a good counter for the int unit. So we have them on rotation and we can just take out the int unit before it gets to our really tech heavy turn. Then obviously that's very, very good. And generally speaking, they are more than fine defensively after they super to take some hits. If they get supered by the strength unit, we are going to take a lot of damage, if not possibly die. But generally speaking, we should be more than fine. Then, obviously on the other rotation, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the free-to-play Goku Gohan, a unit that does pretty good. Overall, it's got the guard capabilities when you're 77% or higher in health. We've got the evasion beforehand. Just generally speaking, does very well as a unit. If I can be honest, the 50% heal on the exchange mechanic also helps us out. And overall, I think a unit that just gave us that second relatively tanky option. Now, you need to transform them into Goku by the 5th turn or so. Gohan's evasion will drop down, and if Gohan gets hit, you're taking like 160,000 damage. So you do need to get that transformation. That's possibly the only real thing I can point out. And yeah, that's basically it. Then I have an AoE Piccolo. Probably one of the better selections for this event, and a unit that if you don't have is going to be very difficult to replace. You can definitely replace him. Go for someone that does a lot of additional super attacks. So yeah, go for someone like Gobros, go for someone like Super Saiyan God Goku or Super Saiyan God Vegeta. If you have them as a lead, you can obviously run them in the slot. Basically anyone that will fire additional super attacks that do high damage is going to be very good here, because you need to replace the AoE with someone with the ability to take out 2 to 3 units. As long as you have that ability, you should be safe, because you can use that unit to take out any threats realistically for a rotation. So that's kind of the thing here. It's not always about taking them all out at once. It's about the ability to eliminate 2 or 3 that are threats. And then we obviously have, as my lead, we have the Super Saiyan Gogeta, the AGL one, the first original movie hero's lead. He will take a lot of damage, but once he transforms, his crits help him out for at least eliminating or doing big damage to one enemy, and his evasion can keep him safe. You can't really rely on it, so we'll talk about the strategy when it comes to like protecting these units, but I just want to get through our team kind of build here. And then the final unit that we're using is obviously the Super Saiyan Vegeta. Again, just a unit that does very big damage. Essentially, that crit chance, his huge ability to do damage is super helpful. If you need to replace him, just replace him with someone that does big damage. You only need to be able to fire off one attack. He is a floater, so he just needs to be able to take out one unit maybe, and that's about it. Then in terms of the overall kind of like design here, or the philosophy behind the run, essentially you just focus on anyone that's a threat to you. So for example, like I said, take out the int unit if you're on your tech rotation. And then whatever unit's attacking your floater. Generally, the floaters can't handle damage. If you look at AGL Gogeta, Super Saiyan Vegeta, and all our floaters that we're going to have on the team, generally speaking, they don't handle damage very well. So the best way to kind of counteract that is to just eliminate units that target them. So use, for example, the God Duo, who are very unlikely to take damage, to take out the 2 units that are attacking AGL Gogeta at the end. Most times there'll be some intersection, and you'll be able to take out a unit that's also attacking, for example, the SS God Duo. But yeah, just try do that, because generally speaking, you want to protect those units. If those units take damage, if their evasion fails or they take too many hits, it's GG to the run. So just do that. Just make sure that you take out those threats. You'll see if you watch the video, you'll see for the most part, I'm always targeting the unit that's targeting the floater first. So I'm taking out that unit to try and eliminate whatever threat I can, letting the God Duo take out the secondary unit. Then I'm having the floater target whatever remaining unit is obviously facing them. If it just so happens to be, that one unit is still left attacking them, then obviously it's a bit unlucky, but generally speaking, they handle things more than fine. So yeah, for the most part, we're doing fine. You can see here, I don't use an item. I could have still used an item to round off this. This is the last turn. It is difficult to keep track. But yeah, you could definitely still take this on. In terms of overall functionality, I think this event was not holistically enjoyable. It took me quite a few runs. It is RNG dependent. I think it's one of those events that's a lot easier if you have double Super Saiyan God Boys or a floating, Super Saiyan Goku and Vegeta. I just think, it's generally speaking a pretty strong event if you do that, but yeah, to each their own, basically. But yeah, overall, I think, it is what it is. You'll be facing the SR Coolers 4 times, the SSR Coolers 3 times, and the Awakened Coolers 3 times. So that hopefully gives you some kind of metric to measure how far you've gone in the event. But yeah, was it worth it? Well, quite decent rewards. The equipment from this event is very good. Silver EX level 5 equipment, so can't complain too much. But I think it is a little bit unfair. I don't really like advantageous categories. But yeah, that's it from me. Bye.